think it should be sending an email out to people also. Okay. Well, I guess we can just talk amongst ourselves while we wait for, I don't know, or we can start.
All right, yeah, I'm happy to kick things off. So, everybody, welcome to today's Stride Souls AMA Ask a Clinician Anything. My name is Dr. Zac Cartun. I'm the Chief Medical Officer and co-founder of Stride Souls. Here with Greg and Dominic. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves real quick.
I'm Greg Gerla. I'm co-founder and CEO of Stride Souls, and thank you for setting this up, Zach, and let's have another great session.
My name is Dominik Walter, and I'm the head of design at StrideSource.
Awesome. So, what I wanted to talk about a little bit today, as well as answer any questions that come in, is accessibility. And I think it's kind of cool that we're kind of the leadership team at Stride Souls and we're across the globe. I'm in Boston, Greg is in New York, and Dominic is in Germany. And our one of our major manufacturing centers is in California, or at least distribution centers when it arrives from Germany. So we really are like an international and widespread company. And I think that reflects kind of our mission to make orthotics accessible to everyone. So I kind of wanted to discuss what it is that we do to bring the podiatry level in clinic care to the patient. And I actually, one thing that we talk about the least frequently is the intake questionnaire. This is the first thing that people encounter on our website. It's a set of questions that we use to understand best, what sort of symptoms and needs patients have and what the orthotics can do to help remediate them. And even though it's the least tech savvy of all of our steps, because we also do a 3D foot scan and a gait analysis, it's one of the most important. And it wasn't just something that we came up with in a vacuum. We've spoken to lots and lots of clinicians. And maybe Greg, as the non-clinician in the group, can you speak a little bit to like how it's made so anyone, regardless of their medical background, can be able to provide a really thorough understanding of their foot problems and what they want to achieve?
You're saying from a consumer standpoint, like what type of data do you get?
Yeah, like what are you asked from a non-medical standpoint? Like, is it easy to fill out? You've been in the orthotics business a long time now, but given you don't come from a medical background, can you speak to how you made sure that there was no jargon or weird complexities to confuse anybody?
Yeah, so the orthotics are Stride Souls orthotics are extremely easy and accessible. I think that was one of the first things that we thought about when we made the company is we want it to be easy and accessible. So even the questionnaire when you first get started on the Stride website is dead simple. It doesn't take any medical knowledge to fill out. It takes like 2 minutes. A lot of people come in with knowledge of like what their condition is, um, what kind of orthotic they're looking for. So we'll make the orthotic for that specific person and condition. But if you don't have that information, we're gonna ask you the right leading questions to get us that information. And then everything that we don't get from the questionnaire, we can just see from your scans or the gate that you're going to send us. So through all of that, we get a full picture. And as someone that went through the process myself and always try to put my customer hat on, it's very simple to do.
Yeah, and I think one of the most important features of our questionnaire is that it's a living questionnaire. It's not the same as the one that we released 3 years ago when we started the company. We really do see what people's responses are. We try to understand, based on their responses, the orthotics that we build, what could have been better, and we update the questionnaire quite frequently to ensure that we're getting as detailed, but also just asking the right questions. And you made an interesting point about there's kind of two types of patients or customers we get. We get one type that really doesn't have a whole lot of experience with orthotics, or at least they may have experience, but they don't know exactly what they need. And we get another type that maybe already went to a podiatrist, got a pair that they liked, but they don't want to pay the same egregious amount for that second pair, or the material wore down a little bit, and they're ready for a new pair, and their podiatrist for whatever reason can't provide it. Dominik, I was wondering if you could speak to what we can do to replicate some elements of what people want, but also how we improve upon it.
Yeah, so yeah, we just discussed about that earlier today, because some of you have some special requests and special wishes that we need to consider on the insole design. The more specific you name those, the easier it is for us to replicate them, right? Though, and that's what you have to understand, you, the one that requests those elements, needs to understand a little bit about, is it really helping me, right? You sometimes find elements on insoles that are there because it's like historically grown and you get used to them, but they don't really benefit you on a long term, because the difference is, and that's an advantage that you can make use of wearing our strides, that we are building up muscles. And most of the insoles, the traditional insoles, they're not, they're passively aligning. So it's every time we take over elements into our insoles, we make a step more towards the passive alignment, which, and that's a good thing, might work for a lot of you. And that's why we want to work on improving, considering your specific requests for the orthotics. Metatarsal pads, medial arch support, heel wedges, heel cups, like everything is possible. We can literally make a Coke can of an insole. That's no problem, but you need to be specific.
Well, I think it's really interesting that you brought up metatarsal pads, because we got a question from the chat. Someone always has metatarsal pads in their insoles. Do we incorporate metatarsal pads when we design orthotics? And what is kind of the philosophy? And I know we have some very interesting ways we design metatarsal support that preserves blood flow. And I thought maybe you could describe that a little bit, Dominik.
Exactly. Metatarsal pads are very often used for pain in the metatarsals, metatarsalgia. So when the metatarsals break through, or the fat padding underneath the metatarsal heads gets too thin. The traditional way to treat that is by adding a bump, like a elevation proximal. So what's proximal?
Towards the body, so towards the heel of the foot.
Yeah, exactly. So not under, but slightly before the metatarsal heads, and then the metatarsal pad pushes in there to passively elevate those metatarsals again. That's how it's traditionally done. What only few people know is that exactly here is a muscle, the adductor hallucis. And this muscle is responsible for building the natural transversal arch. If we add a metatarsal pad, then we put pressure on exactly that muscle, stop the blood flow, and that means the muscle degenerates even more.
I just want to pause there, because that's a really interesting biophysiological point that isn't intrinsically obvious, but all of our muscles are fed blood through a series of ever branching out blood vessels. So a big artery comes in, that branches into arterioles, which branches more into capillaries. So these capillaries are like that they're so thin that only one cell of blood can pass through at a time. So any pressure that is happening on them will shut them off and prevent any blood from getting to the end result. Now, there's a lot of redundancy. That's why if you push on your muscle, you don't, the muscle doesn't die immediately. There's lots of other ways the blood can get muscle, but the muscle can get blood. But if you do it consistently for a long period of time, the net loss in the nutrients and oxygen that those capillaries provide can degenerate the muscle over time. And I think that's what you're describing.
Exactly. And that's why we tend to go another way to treat the metatarsalgia. And that's kind of a secret, but it's one of many. So I think we can share that. But we're talking a lot about our toe elements, and treating the metatarsalgia. We want to train this adductor hallucis muscle and the intrinsic foot muscles here. We do that by slightly elevating the toes, and then you can wait. Let me maybe so we can see that, right? What it does, if we elevate the toes, we trigger this movement here in the foot. So to actively lift the transversal arch again. So with every step, you actively lift it because you get this trigger from the toe elements. And that's why we have a long-term treatment. You train yourself out of metatarsalgia.
I think that's a really, really awesome response. And it's just a different philosophy. And it does explain why when people get our insoles, sometimes they're a little concerned that we didn't take their metatarsalgia into account when we're designing them. Because they're used to, as the person in the chat said, kind of a raised bump or a pad in the metatarsal area that will offload pressure in the short term. But in the long term, that raised support actually has detrimental effects. And we're trying to stop the cause at the root and train the muscles and the ligaments to grow and restore arch function, essentially offloading the metatarsals in a more natural, healthy way that's restorative. So yeah, thank you for that explanation, Dominik. Did we get another chat, Greg?
We do not have another
Oh,
chat.
okay.
No,
Oh,
not
okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, I see. That was a question you asked Carol.
Yeah, I was just
Oh.
trying to see like what else. I guess we can just ask you guys like, what are common ways that people treat this condition besides orthotics, Dominik?
Sorry again?
Like, how do people treat metatarsalgia without orthotics? Like, are there exercises or other things people can do?
Yeah, easy. Yeah, that's a good point. Like working out with your feet is crazy effective. It's very good. Easiest way to do that is walking barefoot on sand or natural ground, on everything that's natural, right? Because that stimulates muscles. So that's very good. And then easy things like making grabbing games. So like you put a towel in front of you and you take the toes to toe it towards you. This helps a lot. And yeah, so you can find online, and maybe we will make a blog or so in the future about that, foot training that really helps. Metatarsalgia is nothing natural, right? People in the nature, bare feet folks, they don't have that. It's only we, since we we use shoes, muscles degenerate, so keep the muscles active. That's the thing.
Yes, and Carol says she's had custom orthotics before, one over the counter, and she has the degenerative joint on the fourth toe of the left foot. So it seems like that's exactly what we're talking about here.
So yeah, degenerative joint disease is something that is a little bit different than metatarsalgia. It can result from loss of fat pads, but degenerative joint disease is when the cartilage between the bones of the toe tend to wear down, and it can cause pain. And it's often idiopathic, meaning there's no like necessarily genetic or special genetic or natural cause for why it happens. It just does as we get older. And in this case, for degenerative joint disease, we don't necessarily need to train a muscle or restore tissue to relieve it, but we try to offload pressure from the painful area. And that's actually one of the things that we've designed our questionnaire in the beginning to do, is to understand where those painful areas are and what's causing them. So if someone said pain under the fourth toe, and then in the open-ended section they mentioned they have degenerative joint disease, we go, okay, there's not necessarily or not only a muscle we need to activate, but we also need to consider offloading pressure from that painful area. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add, Dominik.
Yeah, no, it's true. So at one point we do not treat the cause anymore. At one point we have to treat the symptom. If the, what do you call it? Cartilage?
Cartilage. And I just want to say for the group, Dominik knows what cartilage is. He just knows how to say it in German better than in English.
Knorpel. Yeah, in German.
Good.
Yeah. But if that's gone, it's basically gone forever. So at one point, we need to treat the symptoms, and that's why it's important information that you gave us there.
Yeah. And maybe can you share a little bit how we offload pressure? Like if we know there's pain in one area, what we do to offload pressure from there?
Pressure is always a load on a certain area, right? That's what we call pressure. And we can reduce pressure by increasing the contact area. You have foot structures, like for instance, the medial arch. When you stand, it doesn't necessarily have contact to the ground. That means on all the elements or all the structures that have contact, there's higher pressure. If we increase the area, the pressure overall will be lowered. So that's basically a full contact. Maybe we have the cushioning of our foam layer that has a memory effect. So the high pressure points will build in and it will remain this way. And therefore the contact on the rest of the foot is increased and therefore pressure is lowered.
Awesome. So we got another comment about somebody who uses Walk-Fulton orthotics. Do you know what those are, Dominik? Those are over-the-counter insoles that have cork. So you wear them for a long time, and basically it creates a perfect impression of your foot. So, and I think the person in the chat said something very important, and that is they work pretty well for them. And ultimately, if it works well for you, we don't want to change what works for you. And I'm not going to tell anyone who finds a solution that reduces their pain, that makes them feel better, that makes them more active, that they're doing something wrong. However, in a general sense, I do have some concerns about cork orthotics. There's really two. One is that the impression that your foot leaves is the exact impression of your foot. So if there's anything structurally wrong with your foot, the cork is just going to capture it and continue it. It's not going to do anything corrective. And that's against our philosophy. I mean, there's kind of two philosophies of stride soles. It's like accessibility and then also helping people heal or grow out of orthotics in general. We want to improve the foot, not just create a really good cushion for it. So that if for example, if you have some sort of misalignment in the bones, there's muscle atrophy, the arch is too flat, all of that gets mapped right into the cork and will just continue the process for a longer period of time. The other problem, personally, I have with cork insoles is that it doesn't do a good job correcting for pronation or supination. So this is kind of like a thought experiment. But imagine you're standing on a solid piece of cork and you pronate, meaning the inside of your feet turns in too much. What's going to happen over time? Well, over time, because the inside of your feet pronate or turn in too much, the inside of the orthotic is going to get pushed down way more than the outside will. And I'm exaggerating with my hands, but you're going to get this shape, and it's going to even further exaggerate any sort of ankle stability you have one way or the other. So I am tempted to say that even if Walk-Fultons feel good and are working in the short term, they do pose ankle instability risks in the long term. That said, cork can be a helpful material. I know we have cork for some special use cases. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add, Dominik.
Basically, what you said is absolutely correct. So what this complete memory effect insoles
That's
do,
a good term for it, yeah.
they preserve the misalignment, right? And you can think about, at one point, usually everyone changes shoes. We say when they're worn down, and they're worn down when they do not do anything to support you anymore, right? If you pronate a lot and you put your shoes on the table and you look from behind, the shoe at one point will be in pronation as well. And that's the same with those orthotics, right? If you build in your misalignment even more at one point, it supports it and it preserves your misalignment.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. No questions from the chat, but I had a very interesting thing that I meant to tell both of you guys that happened to me. So this is another condition I want to talk about, which is plantar fasciitis. Just as a really brief overview, your plantar fascia is a band of tissue that runs along the bottom of your foot. It goes into the toes and then inserts back in the heel. And it's responsible for kind of holding all the muscles and bones in place. Plantar fasciitis can happen when that tissue becomes loose and torques too much. So there's too much movement and it starts to pull at the heel. And you can imagine one of the things that can cause it to be too loose is if you're wearing really soft shoes too often, because the muscles in your foot begin to atrophy, they shrink. That means that there's more room for the plantar fascia to wiggle and pull on the heel. One of the shoes that we see a lot in clinic that patients wear that it seems to be related to plantar fasciitis are on running shoes. Is that also your experience as well, Dominic?
Absolutely.
So, um, what as an experiment, I bought a pair of on running shoes a couple weekends ago, and one of my favorite things to do is go on like really long walks. I live in Boston. I'll do like a 2 or 3 hour walk. I've never once had any plantar fasciitis pain in my entire life. I got these on running shoes. I got the best ones that you can buy. They were like almost $200. They look cool. I'll give them that. They look really cool. And when I first put them on, it was like it's a very cool experience. It's like they're really bouncy, they're really soft. It feels like you can kind of run forever in them, and I can see why they have such an appeal. So I went on my walk, and for the first like hour, they felt amazing. Like really, I felt like I was bouncing and it was like crazy. Then between hour one and hour two, I started noticing like this tiny little pain in my heel. And I'd never experienced this before. I feel bad because I treat plantar fasciitis all the time, but I didn't have like a personal experience with it. And then on that third hour, when I was like trying to come home, I was in so much pain. I had to like walk on my toes practically, despite having this amazing cushion underneath my shoes. So there's kind of this like misalignment between what looks comfortable and what is actually healthy in the long run. Um, and long run can mean over years or a lot of use in a single day. And I don't know. I meant to tell you guys this, but I it's just another data point that kind of confirms our philosophy. And it wasn't something I was trying to like set out to prove. I really just wanted to see how they'd feel, and it was very interesting getting this pain during this walk.
I mean, on
Yeah.
shoes, they were designed from and for high performance athletes, right? So very muscular people that are used to run, used to walk a lot. They have muscular feet. They can walk on those. That's probably a very good shoe for them, but not for the regular Joe Schmoes like you and I, right? We don't have the foot muscles to
You
walk
didn't
in
have to hurt my feelings, Dominic.
like you and I said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's true because I had the same. I bought them in Switzerland, in Zurich. That's where they're from.
Yeah.
When they just came out new, they looked amazing. I had the same. Like my heel, that was the first time I had heel pain and also knee pain, by the way, when I wore them.
Yeah. And I I particularly would say my opinion here is not super biased because where Greg and I went to business school in France, the alumni who started on running also graduated from our business school. So like I want them to succeed from that standpoint, but unfortunately it didn't work for my pain. Um, all right, so Carol, you said you use you also run. Do I need a separate insole for daily activity and running shoes? So there's a short answer, which is it depends. We make lots of different types of orthotics for different shoe and activity types. We do make a special orthotic for running. And Dominic, I'll let you talk about that in a second. But we also make kind of like an all day sneaker insole that is good for lots of different activities. So, depending on how well that works for you while running, what kind of runner you are, are you going, 5 miles, 10 miles a day every day? Or are you doing, 1 mile, 2 miles once or twice a week? It kind of depends on whether it's worth getting the benefits of the running insole in the long run. And Dominic, I'll let you speak to that just a little bit more.
Yeah, in terms
Oh,
of
she said that she races marathons and uses carbon fiber shoes. So maybe take that into account as well.
all right, great. Yeah. For what you said, the movement itself is pretty similar for all day and running, right? It's the forward motion. You don't have a lot of side steps and those forces, shear forces. But what we do is we consider it in the way we use the material. And coincidentally, I have those here. So if you see that, this is our material infill pattern that we use for an all-day shoe. And if we compare that next to a running, you see this one is way denser, right? So the structure and the geometry is the same, just this one is more dense than this is. And the reason is this one gives you a little bit more bounce. So this overall seems more comfortable. It takes the forces, it returns the forces, but this one really has a kind of a bounce. So and when you're running on carbon shoes, they have this spring effect, right? That's the purpose of those carbon. So it bends and then it gives you explosive spring effect. And with the denser material, we give you an extra little bit of a bounce. And obviously, foot muscles swell more during running, so we need to take that into consideration as well. That's why the elements are slightly different as well.
Yeah, that's a perfect response. Thank you. I know we're coming up on time. Greg, is there anything else that you wanted to touch upon? Or is there any other questions from our listeners we're happy to answer?
Yeah, I'll say this while any other questions can come in. If you'd like to purchase Stride Soles, we have a coupon code for 20% off for making your way all the way through this whole call. So Hawk Hill, HAWKHILL, will give you 20% off your order. And if you have any other questions, definitely reach out to us at team@stridesoles.com. We are always available and answer every question.
And we'll be here live next week as well. And then, Carol, thank you for asking a lot of questions. We appreciate it. And we're happy to answer more if you have any. The code again is Hawk Hill, HAWKHILL. And Greg just put it in the chat as well.
Yes, thanks, Sash, for your contribution. Sash is my friend.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.